So have you ever wanted to try a needlebook finish, but it just felt a little bit too intimidating? Well, it's easier to do than you think, and I'm here to help you. I'm going to walk you through finishing my Autumn Harvest needlebook. You're going to have a gorgeous needlebook at the end of this tutorial. Really excited to be here with you today. I'm Misty Purcell. I love to design cross-stitch patterns, and specifically, I love to design cute cross-stitch patterns, and my mission is to make the world cuter one stitch at a time. So today we're going to be finishing this awesome Autumn Harvest needlebook, which is a new design for me. And this piece is going to look great if you want to display it in with your fall decorations, but not just with your fall decorations. I think if you have a needlework display where maybe you keep some vintage tomato pin cushions and some spools and things, this would look great tucked in there as well. And it would also make the perfect gift if you're doing a smalls exchange. So that's something to think about because it's small, it's quick, and it looks great. So people will be impressed when you give them this. So although this is a tutorial about needlebooks in general, like the steps that I'm going to give you will work great for all needlebooks, but it's specific obviously to this particular design. And since this is a fall themed design, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What is your favorite fall motif to stitch? Do you love squirrels? Maybe you love acorns, leaves, pumpkins? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious to hear what your favorite thing is. Okay, so let's talk about the supplies. I have a couple options. So I will link in the video description the pattern on my website, which you can purchase. It's a PDF. And then I have, while in stock, while supplies are limited, so while in stock, I will have kits of the fabric and floss. This is a silk floss from Gloriana. It's beautiful. So I have those kits, and that's one option. And the other option is also to purchase a finishing kit. So the finishing kit would include the rayon ribbon, the felted wool that goes inside the acorn, the pins that my mom made. Thanks, Mom. And then the velveteen that Lois dyed especially for this. Thanks, Lois. So those are all the things that are included in the finishing kit. So you can also purchase that if you want to have the full thing. Okay, so that's available on my website. I will link the things below in the video description. I will also give a list of general supplies that I think are helpful for this project, such as the mat board that I use, the batting that I use, some of my favorite scissors and glue and things like that. So those will all be linked to Amazon, and I earn a small commission if you make a purchase through those links. All right, let's get started on your awesome needlebook. So you want your damp cloth to wipe your fingers on when they're covered in glue. And first step is to press your fabric. You want to press your stitched piece and your velveteen. Press them on a padded ironing board. I put like a folded towel on mine, face down, and then hit them with some steam. This is a little bit folded. I actually was testing the edges, which is why it's not perfectly flat. Doesn't matter. Anyway, okay, so let's talk about the templates. So we have two templates. I want to explain a couple of things about them. You'll see in your pattern there's template A and B. Template A is a little bit larger and template B is a little bit smaller. And you want to make sure that your printer is set to print at actual size and not set to scale. Otherwise it might shrink the templates a little bit. So make sure you're printing them out. You can check the measurements. It would be 4.5 here and here, 4.25 here and here at the widest points. Okay, so you're going to cut out both templates, and then we use them for different things. That's why there's two. So as you'll see, and there's some additional info on the pattern page, we're going to use template A for the stitched piece, for the velveteen, and then for the felted wool, we're going to use it to cut two pieces, mat board 2 pieces, and the batting for the needlebook exterior, the outside part that you'd see with it closed. We'll need 2 pieces for that. The asterisks mean that you're cutting it on the line. If it doesn't have an asterisk, so stitched piece velveteen, felted wool, you're going to be cutting outside the line. You're going to be leaving a seam allowance essentially, or a gluing allowance depending on what we're doing. And then template B is just for the batting on the inside of the book because it needs to be smaller. And it's much easier to put a template down and cut around it. It's really hard to put a template down and then cut within it smaller. That's why there's a B template. So the inside batting where you're going to put the actual like needles, that batting is going to be a little bit smaller than the batting on the front. Okay, and that's just to leave room for us to turn the wool fabric under towards the end. Don't worry too much about it right now, but that's the reason, okay? So the first thing you want to do is cut out your templates and then start cutting out your different pieces. I'm going to start cutting out my mat board and then I'll cut out other things and walk you through it. So this is my favorite pencil, this Twist-Erase. It never breaks. I've had one of these since college and they're so reliable. This is not the one I had in college, but I do still have that one. They're great pencils. So I'm just going to use that to trace. Okay. Now what I like to do to make my life easier, you do not have to do this, but I'm a quilter, so I have some of these tools. I like to use a Creative Grids ruler and a utility knife and just kind of cut some of this off. It's way easier to cut, even if you just cut with your scissors and kind of cut kind of close, it'll make it easier for you to cut right along the lines later on. So giving yourself less excess mat board is a really good idea. Always be careful not to cut yourself. I usually do one shallow cut and then cut all the way through. That way it doesn't matter. My ruler won't slip if I do it that way. Sometimes it needs a third cut. Okay, so you're going to cut 2 of these out. And here are some new scissors I just got. I broke my other ones. I actually broke them in the handle. So this is a new pair of scissors. They're titanium. I really like them. Makes cutting the mat board a lot easier. Now where you're going to run into a little bit of a challenge is right inside of the curve on each side. I'm going to try turning the light down, see if it's a little better for you. It's just kind of blinding, isn't it? We'll see how that is. So you can kind of tilt your scissors upward to get around that curve, and that helps. It doesn't matter if your edges are a little bit jagged because we're going to put batting on this and that will smooth out some of those jagged edges. Again, I'm kind of curving my scissors upward just to make it around that curve. Sometimes it's easier to just cut off a little section and go on. Okay, the template's all cut out, and I already our mat board. I've got 2 of them. I already cut the other one. I didn't want to make you watch me cut it twice. So our mat board is all cut out and ready to go. Let's cut out some other stuff. Okay, so I've already cut this, but you would use template A, and I didn't pin it because I didn't want to catch any of the silk. I just laid it around and gave myself a 1-inch margin and cut around the outside edge. Okay, so it doesn't have to be perfect. You're just going for approximately 1 inch. You can eyeball it, and if you want to, you could draw it with a water-soluble marker or something, but you don't need to do that. So I've already done that one, but let's do the velveteen together. So with the velveteen, there's a nap. This is a velveteen from Lady Creates. Lois took some time to educate me on the nap. I'm still not sure I totally get it, but stories about pants is what she told me, and the nap going different ways. So basically, there's a smooth side and a side that doesn't go smooth, and you want the smooth side to be the one that you're using. Now I found that there's kind of a couple, like this way is smooth and this way is smooth. I think you're not going to know which way exactly the nap is when you get this, but pick it a smooth way. I would say that it looks darker from what I understand from Lois, and this way it looks darker, and I would have it go down personally, but that's my preference. So this would be the top of the acorn, and this is going to be the bottom. So same thing, we're not cutting it out on the line. This is one of the ones that's going to get cut out with another 1-inch margin. It says this on the pattern instructions that come with the template. So all you have to do is check that out. If you don't remember, it says it right there. I like to pin at least a few pins along the edge. Won't really matter too much. We're not going for anything being exact. We're just trying to have the fabric not flap around on us. And we're going to cut out 1-inch margin approximately. Now you can also use, and actually these would be better for this. I really like these Kay Buckley Perfect scissors because they're serrated. There's like a little micro blade in there. It's a little tidier, particularly with the wool that we're going to use, but also with the velveteen. I feel like there's a little bit less kind of fraying along the edge. Just an option. If you like to work with velveteen and felted wool a lot, then you might like this. If you don't, then I don't know that you need it. And we do want this actually to be a little shallower here anyway. I'm just going to clip it straight like that. And we are going to want to clip some of these curves to reduce the bulk. Maybe I'll leave the pins in and do that now. Actually, no, I'm going to wait until we... I'll wait. I'll explain in a few minutes. Okay. So, next up... Okay, so we've got velveteen cut 1 inch from the template edge, stitched piece cut 1 inch from the template edge. Okay. So you can either use the template, and if you're going to do the template this way, you can, so there's a couple different ways you can do this. Depends on what you're comfortable with. You can either cut them out separately, you can pin the template on and cut them out at once. Another way that you can do this, if you want to, is you can just put glue on each piece of mat board, stick the batting on it, and then cut out around the edge of the template. I think I'm going to go with that route, but you can certainly cut it out from the template and then glue it on. It's whatever you're comfortable with. So you do you, okay? I'm going to go ahead and just, I think this is a little faster. I might be wrong. Okay, so this is my Aleene's Tacky glue. I like this particular one because it sits upright, which theoretically means it should come out easier, but that's not always the case. So you just want to glue kind of close to the edge so your batting doesn't come up, it sticks to it. We'll do the other one. Then you just turn it over, press, flip it back this way or this way, it doesn't matter. I actually like to see it on this side. And I think I'm going to use this again, cut it out. You may be hearing lots of background noises. I don't know. It's raining and my neighbor is playing his cello. I live in a townhouse, so the walls are pretty good, but I definitely hear music at times, and when there's cello practice, I do hear that. Okay, those are done. And let's see. Now we're going to cut felted wool. Again, doesn't really matter what order you're doing these in. Whatever pieces you cut first. I just like to get the cutting done. So for the felted wool, we're going to leave a margin. You can see because there's no asterisk. And as it says in the instructions for the felted wool, we're going to leave a 1/4 inch margin around the outside edge approximately. Sorry, I'm getting a little off camera, aren't I? Decided to move the camera closer to me so that when I need to cut stuff, you can still see what I'm doing. Okay. So now we have everything cut from template A. So we're done with template A. All we need to do for template B is cut batting for the book interior, and if it has an asterisk, then we need to cut it on the line, just like it says here. Okay, my batting is folded in half. I've got 2 pieces. If you're worried about getting confused about which batting pieces are which, just keep the template on these and set these aside because this is the only time we need the B template. So now we're going to start playing with our glue some more. So we're going to carefully position our stitched piece on top of our mat board with the batting side up. Okay, so stitch piece goes on top of that. And you want to try to find a way to center it. So you want to check that you can see, you can kind of see here evenly as best as possible at the top. And then you're also keeping an eye on this distance and then here as well where it's a bit narrower. So I had already kind of tested folding this over so that I could get it approximately where I wanted it to make it easier when I added the glue. So you can do that as well when you get it where you think you want it. And then you might want to try pinning it. You just want to be careful. If you're stitching this with silk, you don't want to snag your silk, and silk does snag fairly easily. So I would pin around the outside edge, outside the stitching. Is it going to come through? Yes. And sometimes your fabric will distort a little bit when you stitch with it. So you just do your best to adjust, and you may have to tweak and shift things a bit in order to get it glued in place evenly. That's okay. Happens to me all the time. I think I'm going to add 2 more pins. You don't have to pin this if you don't want to. I'm just doing it to keep it in place, but you can definitely make it work without doing that too. Okay, yeah, it's looking pretty good. You just want to check. We've got about a 1/4 inch spacing between the outside of the stitching around and the template edge for the most part. So that's what you're eyeballing to see if that's truly happening for you. Okay, so one thing we want to do before we get started is I suggest that you clip your curves. And the reason being, you're going to have a lot of bulk here in this area. And I would also clip the point a little bit narrower. You even can clip along here as well and decrease some of this bumpy area here. Curves, you got to clip them sometimes. You don't have to do it. I just find it helps reduce the bulk. So where you're going to get some, I would suggest starting like here in the indentation, and then you're going to get some bulk around this edge. And so you're just going to clip in here. You're just making a triangle and cutting it out. I would do at least 3. If you find that things are getting too bulky as you're gluing down, you can clip a 4th one in if you want to. And then 1 or 2 here would be good. Do the other side. Make sure you don't clip too close to the edge, so leave some space. You don't want to have it show through on the front of your stitching. Okay, so we're going to put some glue now around the outside perimeter, but not right on the edge, because we're going to actually be hand sewing this. I recommend. You don't have to. You can do it other ways if you want. We'll talk about that. If you are going to hand sew it like I'm going to demonstrate, you don't want glue on the edge or you won't be able to sew very easily. So leave some room. And if at any point any of this feels like too much excess as you're like turning it over, you can trim it off. So I like to start at the bottom and do the point first. Get your damp cloth ready to clean your fingers. Okay, and then I'm going to put a little more quick glue a little closer to the edge there. It's not quite close enough. I don't know if you can see it. Okay, and I'm kind of trying not to get glue on my shirt. I'm trying to work both sides a little bit at once and see how I go. Okay, now I'm going to flip over and check how the front's looking. Front is looking good. It's looking even. So now I'm going to stop doing both sides at once, and I'm just going to work up. For me, I like to work up the left side. It might be a left versus right-handed person kind of thing. I don't know. Do what feels comfortable for you. You just want to watch out that you don't get these folds like right along the edge, because then it's going to look bumpy on the front. Right now it's looking nice and smooth on the side here. So that's what we're looking for. We don't want bumps. Bumps back here are fine. Bumps along the edge will show. Checking how things are looking on the front. Got a little bit of a gap here. Let's see if I can fix that. That's better. Just had to tighten it up a bit. And then got a little gap there, so tighten that too. Okay, so you can see I got a little bump here, right? Because it's going right up to the edge, so you just undo it. Let's check that. That's looking pretty good. I think we're okay there. It's not quite along the edge, but we can smooth it a bit more. Check the front again. That's a little bumpy. I think I do need to trim some excess fabric here. Just gonna lob it right off. Okay. And I need a little more glue. Okay, that's looking good. Still looking good. I'm just pushing from the top downward to smooth it. And I'm gonna probably need to trim this again. Maybe reclip this. Okay, keep going. Oh, got a little, gotta be careful about that. Okay. Now my glue line's a little far away because I trimmed that up. So I probably trimmed that up a little bit too much. But we're not in any danger. Okay, let me see if I need to adjust anything. I'm kind of trying to, seeing it's a little bit narrower here than here, I'm just trying to kind of shift things over a little bit. But otherwise, I think it looks really good. And super cute. Okay, so we do have some bulk here. We're going to be covering this up with batting, so it will be hidden. You don't want a ton of bulk though, and that's because it will make the wool on the back a little bit bumpier, which is not a big deal. It'll be inside, but trying to not have a ton of bulk here. So it's another reason to clip your corners. Clip your curves, I mean. Okay, so our acorn is set. Our acorn front is set. Oh, sorry, I'm still fussing. You don't have to be as particular as I am. Also just kind of checking to see how straight across my linen is. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. I think I'm happy with that. Again, you can be as fussy or not fussy. Oh, I'm still not very happy with this. You can be as fussy or not as you want to be. It's your project, and you need to be happy. So it's like, how happy are you spending a ton of time on this? You might not be super happy doing that. Let's go ahead and do the velveteen around the back of the Needlebook. So this is going to be the back outside piece. It's the same exact process as what we just did. Okay. So we're going to pin it in place. I don't think you need a lot of pins here. It's not quite as critical because it doesn't have to be perfectly centered. There's no design on it. So let's go ahead and clip our, yeah, you probably want one more here, just so it's not flopping around. Okay, so let's clip the curves again. I'm just going to trim this down. It seems a bit much. You don't have to be exactly the same across there. You're just kind of going around this curve and trying to get it a bit better. I think I'm going to do one more here. Again, we're not going right up against the edge. Just a little ways out from it so that we have room to stitch it later. Start at the bottom again. Get some glue on my thumb right off the bat. Now you want to try to get this smooth, but I will say that even when you do attempt to get this to be smooth, your edges, they're going to be looking a little less smooth once you sew them down. Once you sew this to the wool inside, it's going to not be so perfectly smooth along here. So right now it looks really nice, but it's going to look a little less nice actually from the sewing. I mean, not bad at all, but just it won't be quite so perfectly smooth as you're seeing it now. Be careful getting glue on the front. If you do, use a damp cloth and try to get it off and then let it dry. So it's still looking good on the front here. I'm just checking because I'm getting some folds there. I want to make sure it's not showing up here. If you'd rather lace these, you can certainly do that. I don't tend to lace. Haven't for a long time. I used to. I don't anymore, but there's nothing wrong with lacing. If that's what you want to do, you should do that. Whatever's comfortable for you. But it's always good to try stuff. So if you haven't tried gluing, maybe see how it goes. The reason I like to glue is, for me, it's a little bit faster, and it could just be that I'm not good at lacing, really, but I would not get as smooth of an edge when I lace things generally as when I glue. So that is the reason why I don't glue, or I don't lace. Okay, little bulk there. Let's try to fix that. Nope, needs more glue. Okay, we're coming along. It's exciting. All right, so now we're gonna put our ribbon on. If you prefer to sew the ribbon on later, you can do that. I'm going to recommend that you cut your ribbon 9 inches long. This is Grubby Jack from Lady Dot Creates. You can iron this if you prefer it to look smooth. I kind of like it, in this case, for a bow, to be kind of crinkly. I'm going to place this here on each side and glue it in place on both of these. And we're going to end up tying each side up, and then when you want to open your Needlebook, you'll just untie one side. I think this is the easiest way to do it, personally. So, but feel free, if you want to do it a different way, to do what works best for you. We are going to have to sew through the ribbon in a little bit, which is a little tricky, but it's not, I think it's easier than other ways of doing this. So I vote for this way, but like I said, do what works best for you. Just try to get them in about the same position on each piece. And the reason that I'm putting it down before the batting is because if we put it down on top of the batting and then put the felted wool over it, we're going to see it through the felted wool, which is okay, but I'd rather not, so I think it's better here. I feel like this project is so wonderful texturally because you've got like this silk, you've got this ribbon, you've got the velveteen, you've got the felted wool. They're like all these amazing textures that you get to touch while you're making this. I love it. Very tactile. Okay, now we're going to put our template B batting pieces centered on here. You can either kind of glue a little ways out, or you can glue on your batting and stick it down. It doesn't really matter. I think I will glue on the batting this time. And you can glue it right at the edge if you're doing it on the batting. If you're doing it on here, you're going to want to leave a space because this is smaller. If you get a little bunched up bit, you can just kind of pick it up and flatten it out, but there will be a bit of bunched up velveteen underneath it. It's okay. The batting is kind of there to help cover that. Alrighty, that is that. Next step. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there. It's so exciting. Alrighty, so now we are going to take our wool. Actually, I should press this. I'm going to take a little quick break to press this. Put it on the wool setting on your iron, and you can give it a little steam shot if you want to. That would probably be helpful. So we'll pause while I do that. All right, back to it. What we're going to do is pin our felted wool in place so it's kind of centered. You can check here if you need to see. It doesn't have to be perfectly centered, but you know, more or less centered. And then we're going to pin it in place, and we're going to hand sew next, which is exciting. I think you only really need like 3 pins. You can use more if you want. Okay, I'll meet you at the couch so we can do some sewing. Or maybe I'll stay here and sew in my chair. We'll see. Okay, so you just need a matching cotton sewing thread. Mettler, Gutermann, there's plenty. Aurifil, I'm sure, is fine. Anything you want. This is a 50 weight. You just need something, like I said, that's kind of a... I would say I'd be more concerned with it matching the front piece and the inside a little bit more than matching the acorn, because the stitches will really be kind of more on the inside anyway. So I would suggest like a cream or beige color that blends in. You can see, you don't see it super well. It doesn't stand out a lot on this felted wool. And then, oh, this is not what we want. So I'm going to use the John James and Assorted needle set. And I'm going to go with one where the eye of the needle isn't much larger than the shaft of the needle. And this is pretty small. You can use a needle threader if you have trouble seeing this. It's not a problem. I do think a finer gauge needle is easier to work with getting in here. You don't want a longer needle because it'll be harder to manipulate. So like something like this, even if it were thinner, it's probably like a tapestry needle. That's pretty pointy for one. Anyway, that would not be ideal. It would be hard to manipulate, and the eye is pretty big, so I just wouldn't do that for this. Okay, I'm gonna try to show you how to do a quilter's knot, because I find that to be like one of the most useful and used things I've come across in my life, so thank goodness I learned to quilt. I learned that in hand quilting though, not in just regular quilting. Okay, so you're gonna thread your needle first. And you're gonna get down to the end. So take the end of your thread and place it between your thumb and your forefinger. And then you're gonna put your needle underneath and you're going to stick it in between your thumb and forefinger on your dominant hand. In my case, it's my right hand. Okay, right there. You can pull it so it's a little bit shorter. So now there's just a little bit sticking out. And then you're going to wrap 3 times, and hopefully you can see this. Let me get closer. Oh, where's a good place? You're going to pull down so that the wraps are in between your finger and thumb, and you're going to hold them there with your dominant hand. Take your non-dominant hand, which in my case is my left hand, and pull the needle up. So the threads, the wrapped threads are still down here in between my fingers. I'm pulling the needle out, and I'm pulling all the thread through the wraps. And then usually, once in a while it doesn't work out, but usually you get a knot afterwards, and then you can just clip the excess thread. Don't clip too close or your knot will come undone, but you can clip the excess. Should I demo that again? All right, let me demo it again. I'll need another length of this anyway. It's a really useful way to make a knot. I use it all the time. You can fast forward if you're good. Okay, so I've come to the end. In my non-dominant hand, in my dominant hand, I have the needle between my finger and thumb. I'm going to lay the thread on top of the needle in between my finger and thumb. And then I'm going to wrap it around 3 times. If you wrap it around too many times, it can make it harder to pull it through things that you need to. Okay, so I'm holding the coils in between my finger and thumb, and I'm going to pull the needle up. And the thread's up, the coils are still between my finger and thumb. And then I have a knot. Okay? If you can't get that to work for you right now, don't worry about it. You can revisit it later, just make a knot. Any knot that you want to make is going to work. Let's start at what I think is maybe the more challenging areas, but we want to get this flat. So I think we should start here at the bottom. And we're going to be folding this under so that it lines up basically with the edge of the front of the Needlebook. So you can see there. You can have it a little bit shallower, or a little bit narrower, maybe I should say, than the front. And I'm going to say that you're going to do this. You're going to keep it flush all the way to the point. So I think I'm going to bring my needle up through the wool. We're going to do a ladder stitch. You don't have to do a ladder stitch if you want to do a whip stitch or another stitch, that's fine. I like ladder stitches. I use them to seam the backs of my pillows because I leave them open. That's how I seam them up. So a ladder stitch, so okay, my thread is coming out of the felted wool, basically in the fold. And a ladder stitch is like a ladder. So you're going to cross into your stitched piece on the exact same spot directly across. So if you kind of pull your thread over and you see like, okay, I'm going here because that's where my thread is. So you're not trying to go on a diagonal. That would be more like a whip stitch, and we're not trying to do that. It's going to show more if you do that. So you want to go straight across into the other fabric. And then you're going to move your needle forward in the fabric and come out. Smaller stitches are less noticeable than bigger ones. Okay, so I've grabbed a bit of the stitching fabric and I'm coming out here. So one thing with a ladder stitch is that you have to tighten your stitches as you go, so they will look loose. Like the first ones you make will look loose and you'll need to tighten them. All right, so now we're going straight across, back into the felted wool. Again, you want to take smaller size stitches, nothing too huge here. And pull tight. You'll have to keep snugging this for a while, and then this will eventually tighten up. Okay, so we're going back into the stitched piece. And I'm kind of going downward if I can, rather than upward, just to try to hide my sewing a little bit more. But that might be hard to do in some parts of this or just in general. So just do what you can and don't worry too much about it, okay? This is not brain surgery. We are doing it to make something pretty. Not a big deal. And no one is going to come over and closely examine your seam on your Needlebook. You don't want friends like that. You probably don't have friends like that. You're fine. I'm getting snagged in my wool a little bit here. Okay, so you can look at the front, see things are looking good. Okay, keep going. You just want to make sure that you're not seeing the wool sticking out. So you want to keep it inside enough that it's not bulging out beyond your stitched piece. So do check that it looks like, you know, you're not seeing this sticking out. And if you do, you can just pull out some of your stitches and fix it. It's not a big deal. Okay, let's start folding this other side under. I'm not quite to the point yet. You can see I'm maybe 1/4 inch from the edge, the tip, and I'm starting to fold the other side of the wool under. It's going to be a little bit bulky there, that's okay. And then I'm just kind of holding that in place with my left hand thumb, left thumb. Trying to decide if I like that or not. Oops. I tried to grab, trying to show you here, tried to grab this kind of outer edge, see if I cover this bit up, this fold here, but even when I tighten it, I'm still seeing that, so I think I'm going to undo that and just kind of go back to where it was. So I'm just snugging it every so often. I noticed I was getting some loose stitches here, so I just snugged it up. This is still looking good on the front. Snag my wool a bit. This needle is a bit sharp, so be careful about stabbing yourself. I have stabbed myself a few times with it. I think we're going to need to clip some curves again. And you want to be careful to not clip them. One, don't clip your ribbon. And two, don't clip too far in because you'll have a little issue folding over. I'll continue on this side when I get there. Just letting you see what the seam's looking like. We're getting to the point with the ribbon, which is a slightly tricky area. But remember, the ribbon's already secured. We're just kind of trying to work around it. We've already secured it with the glue. So we're just kind of sewing through it as best we can. Okay, so I'm really at the edge of the ribbon. I think I'm going to go right through to the other side of it and into the stitched area, stitched fabric. So I'm just trying to pierce the ribbon first, kind of get it out of my way, see what's happening over here. I'm going to try to get it a little lower. And then I'll go through the linen. Hope you can see how this is going. Looks like I'm going to hit something here. Okay. Okay, back through the ribbon to the wool side. It's like I don't have enough hands. This is the awkward part. I need a third hand here. Okay. I'm going to pull it through the ribbon first and then get it into the wool just so I can get the wool tucked down the way I want it. So the good thing is, I know this is awkward, but it's honestly only about maybe 3 or 4 stitches at most, maybe 2 each side, and then on the other side, and that's it. So it's not bad. It's just a little bit of, you know, getting used to it. So I'm already pretty much at the end of the ribbon. I'm going to grab it, go through one more time. And not grab the wool just yet. I'm going to come in separately. So I'm just coming through the ribbon right now, and then I'll grab the wool. Okay, so that was it on the ribbon for this side. I'm going to go ahead and start turning under this part here because it could get a little bulky. Just see how it's looking. So I got some bulk in here, but I can kind of squish that, I think. Great thing about wool is it is squishy. Tighten my stitches back up. Try to get this to pull out just a little bit more so it lines up better. There we go. All right, we're done. We're back where we started. Let's finish this off. There's different ways you can finish this off. Do what works for you. I'm not saying my way is the best way. I'm not even saying my way is a great way. But we're gonna do a little demo. I'm gonna go back into the wool, kind of where I came up, a little ways away. Make sure things are snug. Go back where I came out. Actually, I'm gonna do my wraps here. Okay, so wraps. Just like we started with 3 wraps, you might do 2 instead of 3 just to get it to pop through the fabric more easily, and you're going back in where your thread's coming out. Going up into the seam, I would suggest. Keeping the wraps tight. And you're just popping it through. You'll feel it and hear it when it pops. And then you can just clip. Yeah, 2 wraps is better for the wool. If you're doing the quilting cotton, 3, but I think for the wool, 2 wraps is probably good. Okay, now I off screen did the other side of our acorn. So you can see how it's looking, how they're both looking. So we're going to tie this up and then put in our pins. I'm just tying a bow. Put our pins in, then we can close it up. So I like this because the acorns can kind of lay flat like that at an angle. If we just put a piece of ribbon connecting them here, you get like a big, for example, if you were to connect it here without long pieces of ribbon, not tying it, and just kind of you'd have this sticking out like that, which would kind of bug me. I also experimented with putting it up here, and I didn't think that was great either. So that's why we're doing it this way. But you can do it differently if you want to. Put our cute little pins in. Aw. Okay. Let's close. And there you have it. How pretty is that? This looks awesome. Yeah, so nice. This is actually the first time I'm seeing this finished. I did a test piece before finishing it, but so this is an exciting moment for me because I've been working on this for months and now I finally get to see what it looks like. Awesome. So I'll show you my test acorn in case you're curious. So you could also do this if you're nervous about finishing this, you're afraid you're gonna ruin it or something. I had scraps of yellow, and that is what I used. So I had scrap of yellow fabric. I had some felted wool. I thought wasn't super likely I'd be using this, and I experimented, as you can see here, where I cut off with having it attach here, which I just didn't think was that great personally for me. I also had attached it down here, and again, I had like a big flap of ribbon sticking out when I did it that way, and then I decided I was just going to tie it up on each side. But you could do a test piece like this, and it would give you a feel for if you have extra materials and you have the time. If you're nervous, you could make a test piece to make sure you feel comfortable doing it before you use it on your actual stitching. Alrighty, well, I hope that was helpful. I hope you enjoyed this Needlebook. This would be such a great gift for a friend if you do exchanges. It'll be beautiful if you want to display it in your home. Lots of options for how you can display this and use this. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Hope you found it helpful. Use it for this project. Use it for your other Needlebooks. The steps are pretty much the same. Happy stitching. So now you've seen how easy and fun it is to do a Needlebook finish. I can't wait to see your Needlebook finishes. Please tag me on social media, send me photos. I can't wait to see your awesome work. Also, you know, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe so that you can get more inspiration and more awesome tips for your projects. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you again soon.